Welcome to the Subjective Professor podcast, where we reject coercion and hypocrisy. This is episode 293, and we're going to talk about Ross Ulbricht and Elon's ugly symbol. And tomorrow, I'm going to try to do an episode on the J6, um, pardon J6ers. All right. Anyway, so let's get right into it. There's a lot to talk about. So I saw a video that was uploaded by Reason magazine, and they pretty much gave a good summary of Ross Ulbricht. Basically, he founded the Silk Road, which is a dark web website, and it did 1.2 billion in crypto business, and he basically started it as a way to make the black market safer, right? But anyway, he was arrested when he was 29 years old. He was an Eagle Scout. He had a master's in material science, and so he published papers, and he also invented something too. I'm not really like a film, kind of a film of some kind, right? Um, Austrian economics guy, big Ron Paul follower. And so he wanted to use I'm summarizing the Reason video for you. He used economics to get rid of coercion, right? So you don't need to use force, you can just buy something else, right? And so he dreamed of having a world without force. And so let's see, he was the first vendor on the Silk Road, and he was selling psychedelic mushrooms, magic mushrooms. And so the Silk Road became the eBay of drugs. Let's see, but he had a code of ethics. He couldn't have any fake degrees, no child porn, no stolen goods. And he preached the golden rule, right? Don't do anything that you wouldn't want done to you. Don't scam anyone. And all payment was done by Bitcoin. I saw someone else had posted what the value of the Bitcoin was at the time of his arrest versus what they're worth now, and it's in the billions, right? Who's holding on to them? That's probably the government right now. That'd be kind of interesting. Anyway, he was given two life sentences plus 40 years. I don't know if they're consecutive, but he was given two life sentences. There was the threat of being charged for murder, but that was never actually brought to trial. However, his sentencing was affected by the potential charge of murder, right? And we'll talk about that in a moment, right? So the judge was definitely personally motivated to make an example out of him, and she basically said as much. So the reason why the prison sentence is so heavy, partly in part because of the implication that he might be a contract killer, right? That he not that he was the killer, but that he contracted or hired someone to kill someone else. And they're using a chat log, a log of a online chat. There are no voices, it's just text. And and they're using that to sort of make the charges against Ulbricht seem even worse than they probably were. And so it's a chat between Nob, N-O-B, a character named Nob, and Dread for Dread Pirate Roberts. And the conversation goes, and it's like, oh, okay, you want me to kill this person. Let's see, his last name is Green, Curtis Green. And because he was arrested, they're afraid that he's going to leak all the information. And so he's got to be killed. And it turns out, though, that Nob is a DEA agent, right? A drug enforcement agency person. So he is law enforcement by the name of Carl Force. He was one of two investigators, but he went to prison for embezzling Bitcoin during the case, right? And so already that should make you a little suspicious that maybe, he was trying to save his own butt and sort of concocted this, this chat, but it wasn't the the Ross Ulbricht, Dread Pirate Roberts. And, they go into the explanation that the Dread Pirate Roberts is from the Princess Bride movie. And the thing about the Dread Pirate Roberts is that it's only the same person for a few years. And then when that person wants to retire, they hand it off to another person who takes over as the Dread Pirate Roberts. Okay. And so it seems that Ross Ulbricht had already walked away from the Silk Road as the Dread Pirate and has given it to somebody else. And the person who was the Dread Pirate Roberts at the time of his at some point basically said, no, 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 he isn't. Oh, if you look at the chat logs, it says that he wasn't the original Dread Pirate, right? And of course, the original is Ross Ulbricht, right? And so it couldn't have been him. So the person ordering the hit was not the first Dread Pirate. So Knob, or the DEA agent, had access to this handle, and even the person targeted, Curtis Green, maintains that it wasn't Ross Ulbricht who put the hit out on him. But anyway, so he was made an example of, Ross was, and so he had that stiff sentence. And the stiff sentence probably was justified because he was technically he was a drug dealer. And because drug dealers are stereotypically and just basically known to be bad by all the movies, the all the public school rhetoric. So most people, when you think of drug dealer, you're thinking really, really bad person, murderer, killer, violent person. But at the same time, what's happening all across the United States is a growing awareness that the drug war has failed, that no matter what the government might try to criminalize, there will always be a black market. But because it's a black market, an illegal market, the transactions generally tend to be violent because if there is a disagreement, you can't go hire a lawyer and go to court. I mean, what you're doing is illegal. So you have to take care of it on your own terms, which is why it's so violent. And so what Ulbricht was trying to do was try to make that marketplace less violent. And so it's kind of, and so the reason video points out that it's kind of ironic that Trump is the one that lets him go, since Trump is the one that's declaring war against Mexican drug cartels, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing going on there. But Trump had made a promise to libertarians to get their vote. Angela McArdle was the one that was able to broker that deal. And so she's the Libertarian Party chair. And so the Libertarian Party basically essentially sacrificed its own political candidate in order to be influential, right? To have some kind of access or influence on the outcome of the election. And they succeeded in doing that. And so there's a big war going on within the Libertarian Party itself. And that's the thing about libertarians. They're like Christians. They always are looking for a fight and argue about something, right? Even if it's to the detriment of the body as a whole, but they will do that. And so the Libertarian Party infighting, and it's obviously because of the dynamics of power and control and, this idea of wanting to be right. Now, I'm in the camp of Angela McArdle, so I'm with her, but the other party, it doesn't really care about having an effect or an influence on the current political situation. And I guess you can have your own opinion, but there it is. And so Ross was on the mind of Donald Trump, and Trump even said the same scum that put him away are the same people that came after him. And so he had a lot of sympathy for Ross Ulbricht. And so, yeah, sure, he could, pardon him, no problem. But this whole idea of criminalizing certain things like whether it's alcohol or drugs, prohibition doesn't work. And in fact, because of prohibition, you have even more addiction. You have more danger too, because it's a criminalized substance. Then people come up with synthetics, like I'm sure you know the whole story of crack, right? So cocaine was getting so expensive that people made a cheaper form of it, much more potent, but not as long lasting, but nevertheless cheaper and more potent, and that was crack, right? And that stuff, I believe you smoke, or you burn it and then inhale it. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe that's crystal meth. I don't know. But the point is, though, that when drugs are made, uh, the price is higher, then it triggers or incentivizes people to come up with synthetics or alternatives, and more often than not, they become more dangerous. You can't. Apparently, people in the past have tried to take out the cartels, and what you get is more murders, and the drug cartels themselves become decentralized, and the drug problem doesn't go away. And while we're talking about all this drug use, how about that Hunter Biden, right? Where he gets the pardon, so he can't be touched. Then we got, let's see, then I looked up a couple of stories, sort of trying to show how, um, that's a doorbell. I am so sorry, but I'm just going to keep on going. So I looked up a story, a counter story, like how this is a bad idea. And so CBS News had an article called Trump Pardons Silk Road Founder Ross Ulbricht. And he quotes the FBI in the beginning there. It says, the most sophisticated and extensive criminal marketplace on the internet, the Amazon of drug sites. The dark web is not accessible to traditional search engines. Transactions were encrypted and untraceable. We saw, and this is the FBI guy, I guess, who's investigating, he saw murder for hire postings, hacking for hire postings. Then the claim is that 6 people died of overdoses from drugs bought on the Silk Road. Ulbricht himself collected $18 million through commissions on tens of thousands of drug sales and presented evidence alleging he sought to have people killed for threatening his business, right? And that was a very short article trying to color, uh, paint Ross Ulbricht as a really evil villain. And then my neighborhood patch had a brief article. It said, former Penn State student who founded online drug ring, right? That was the title. According to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Silk Road emerged as the most sophisticated and extensive criminal marketplace on the internet, serving as a sprawling black market bazaar where unlawful goods and services, including illegal drugs, of virtually all varieties, were bought and sold regularly by the site's users. While in operation, Silk Road was used by thousands of drug dealers and other unlawful vendors to distribute hundreds of kilograms of illegal drugs and other unlawful goods and services to more than 100,000 buyers, and to launder hundreds of millions of dollars deriving from these unlawful transactions. The narcotics distributed on Silk Road were linked to at least 6 overdose deaths, according to ICE. Trump's decision to pardon Ulbricht came a day after he pardoned about 1,600 people convicted of offenses or facing charges related to the January 6th Capitol riot. Okay. So obviously, that's supposed to make you realize that he's letting a criminal go. He's letting like on someone on the order of I don't know any of the drug villain names, but if we go back to the old mafia don Al Capone, right? I mean, he's so bad, and he's letting him go. Well, here are some of my thoughts, right? So I believe that, and so I read both of those, a CBS article and then my neighborhood patch article, and I was looking like, where's the really bad thing? And I realized it's the drug stuff, right? I've been in this mentality that drugs should be decriminalized, that it's not a big deal that someone is selling drugs on the black market. It's not like a big deal. I'm over that. And so when I read all this stuff looking for what's the big thing that I'm supposed to make that's supposed to make me think that he's an absolute villain, and I realized it's the drug stuff, right? That he's selling drugs. And you might be, anti-drug. I'm anti-drug. Actually, I'm not, right? Because I take stuff for my headaches. I take anti-allergy medicine. I take lots of drugs, right? But only certain drugs that are illegal. I don't take any of that stuff. But I'm not going to try to lock people up for the choices that they make. I mean, it's their choice, it's their responsibility. Plus, I know what prohibition does, right? It just look, drugs are bad. I choose not to use it, but why is it that other people are drawn to it? And I'm not going to throw them in jail because of choices that they made, which do not hurt other people, right? So obviously, if you're a drug dealer and you did engage in murder and all that other kind of stuff, well, you got to pay for those crimes. So I realized that the two anti-Ulbricht articles were focusing on the fact that he facilitated drug buying and selling. Okay, and all of it's on using cryptos. Woo. But the reality is that the drug war is lost, right? So drugs won because too many people want to use it, right? And I thought was so outrageous. Every once in a while, it's so outrageous that I see some of my college professor colleagues, go absolutely nuts with the drugs and stuff, but they use them too, right? I never used drugs when I was in college, and all of them, they used it. And so I thought it was quite hypocritical of them to come down so hard on, uh, you know, on something that they participated in. I don't even participate in it. I'm sitting here saying, yeah, what's the big deal? Now, obviously, if your family has been hurt by the drug war, yes, but you got to ask yourself, why? Right? That if all of this stuff was never criminalized, like there was never a drug war, would we still be looking at the same kinds of things today? And I think the answer is no. I don't think so. Right? Even the whole evolution of crack, right? If you think about it and you think where it came from, it's because of the drug war. Without the drug war, there never would have been crack. And so the addictions and all that other stuff would not have even existed. So the evidence is really circumstantial. The whole idea of the Dread Pirate, being Ross Ulbricht, that's pretty thin. And then you got a corrupt DEA agent who was arrested for embezzling. I mean, he obviously had motive, but we're not going to look at that either. And so clearly the judge tried to make an example of him, and it seems really excessive in light of the fact that there were a lot of illegal immigrants who were committing murder and rape, and nothing really seemed to be, happening with them in terms of, being charged with anything. And then the politicians who get away with mass murder, aka war, they're untouched. And so it's kind of, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, Ulbricht really is uh, not that bad, not as bad as them. And even pulling out even more, there are so many other people who are sitting in prison who also should be pardoned. They shouldn't be in prison either, right? Because of nonviolent, victimless crimes. And that's the travesty. I think that's something that we should all kind of remember is that Ulbricht was set free. Okay, fine. But what about everyone else who's sitting in prison for absolutely no reason at all? Like they broke a law, but the law itself was unjust. And so they shouldn't be in prison simply for that. I also want to close today with a brief statement on Elon Musk's gesture, where it looks like he's doing a Sieg Heil of the Nazi era. I asked my seventh graders today about it. I showed them a picture of Elon Musk with, a picture, right? So it's not a video, but a picture of him doing the thing. and a picture that included Obama, Bush, Clinton, and Harris doing the same exact thing. And I said, what does it look like they're doing? And I kid you not, they could not tell me that they were just waving. They were like, huh, when does someone do that? And it was so odd. Like they couldn't recognize that the gesture is basically someone waving. And it's not just Musk, but all the other people, like clearly everyone else were just simply waving, but they couldn't identify that gesture, right? And so when you do it today, everyone goes, ooh, right? Because that's all they are taught to recognize. It's a gesture, right? Your body, even accidentally or incidentally, will make that gesture. It's so absurd that they could not realize that he was just simply waving, or in Musk's case, saying, my heart, I love you, that kind of thing. I send you my love, whatever it is. So basically, you will see what you want to see. If you want to see a racist, that's what you'll see. If you want to see a Nazi, that's what you're going to see. But is it really as bad as you want to think? Has Musk said or done anything that is Hitler-esque in any way? Unlike all of those others who are in that I listed above? I mean, no, not even close. But because he did a hand gesture, ooh, he's a Hitler. That is so ridiculous. And so what I would always do when in college, and I did it with my middle schoolers as well, I showed them a Confederate flag and I said, what's this? And they all recognized it as the flag of the Confederacy of the South during the Civil War. And I said, it used to be a thing where people would scrub it from everything. Like you weren't allowed to even show it. Like if you were having a movie about the Civil War, you couldn't show that flag. It was crazy, right? So there are games about the Civil War, right? It's called Civil War, I think. They had to re-release the boxes, except they couldn't have the Confederate flag on it. I mean, it was so absurd how crazy it was, right? And so then I would ask them, who was the last Confederate general to surrender at the end of the war? Uh, and his name is Stand Watie. He is a Cherokee. He was a Native American, and he never wanted to surrender because it was an opportunity to kill people under the flag of the flag that betrayed his people, right? And so, what does the Confederate flag symbolize? To whom? Right? To all these like virtue signalers today. The Confederate flag is, oh, it's racist and everything. It was the flag of vengeance and justice for a lot of Native Americans. You got to understand that. Plus, which flag killed more people? The Confederate flag or the flag of the United States of America? Which flag betrayed more people? You see? And so it depends on your subjectivity and the context that you are going to think about it. And so if you're going to, you know, ban a flag, it's got to be the flag of the United States. Another example I give them is the swastika, right? And most people have only seen it with the Nazis and Hitler, but they don't know the thousands of years of history of that symbol of prosperity and good fortune. It is all over Asia, right? I mean, anywhere you go, it's the symbol they use to tell you where all the temples are. So if you look at a map where it says, you are here, like the last time I was there, which is in the 90s, I don't know if they, changed everything, which I think would be absolutely, tragic. But if you look on a map, like, you're lost and you're trying to figure your way around, you're going to see swastikas on every mountaintop. It's because there's a temple there. So the swastika was supposed to represent the temples, right? And they're everywhere. It's like you could almost see people saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by Nazis." No, you're surrounded by religious freakazoids. That's what that's about. And so this whole Elon Musk gesture, it's such a nothing burger. And people who want to see certain things, they see it as being a Heil Hitler kind of thing, but it's a nothing, right? And people who keep insisting it is a something are truly narrow-minded, closed-minded, ignorant, naive people. And that's it for this episode. Hopefully you're part of the broad-minded, open-minded, ever wanting to learn more group of people. That's it for today. I'll talk to you guys next time.